going to be challenging for me because I'm not used to talking behind me and looking back, but I hope you guys can all see. Is this okay?
Very good.
So I'm going to start right now. Generally, for when I do a portrait, I usually have around two hours to draw because the models usually sit for that long. Generally, like 6 30-minute sessions with breaks in between. Anyone has already done like figure drawing before? Yeah. So you're all familiar. You draw. Yeah. So you draw for maybe 25 minutes. The model takes a break. So that's what we're going to do here.
So I should get naked now.
That's not for a call,
Not for a porn class.
That's up to you.
So I'm going to do 20 minutes. Is that okay?
Oh, sure.
So you're going to try to stay quick.
I will, yeah, I will do. You tell me what you want and I'll do it. I'm super tired, so I figured I could zone out. And that I wouldn't pay as much attention as I should.
And if you feel you just want to take a break, just let me know. Okay, so generally when I start, the first thing I do is I look at the model and I kind of assess, their features, what I like about their features, and sort of how I would design it. Because that's the point of a drawing usually for me, is like I want to accentuate certain things that I like and then try to de-emphasize other things that I don't want to see as much. So for charcoal specifically, the idea is to get the form to read, right? So like how three-dimensional it is. And with charcoal, that's all you have is either it's dark or it's light. So that's kind of how you're gonna be working here. So I'm gonna do the general size of the face is about like the size of a hand, right? So like you go like this and you can sort of estimate it on the page. So I kind of drew it a little short, but that's okay. So now I really start with the angles. So I will go determine those angles just from looking at her face and then sort of making an envelope of her head to get the general dimensions. That's what I'm going to do here. Okay. So I have a general shape or envelope for her head. And then I kind of try to think about that shape as not just a flat 2D, two-dimensional shape, but also I try to imagine the curvature of the skull and the features. So that's what I'm imagining, but that's not what I'm going to draw necessarily, because I don't want to see lines that don't exist in her face. Does that make sense? So I'm going to imagine those lines going from side to side with the center line running through here, basically. And then start drawing the eyebrows. Maybe this one here.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Is that like a charcoal holder? Charcoal pencil holder? Or
It's just a charcoal pencil.
Oh, okay, yeah, because it's got such a long.
Oh, the tip?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just shape the wood, and then it gives you a bigger charcoal to work with.
So do you always approach each subject the same way, that you do the shape of the face and then the eyebrows? And
Not really, it's just kind of a good practice. It's kind of just,
You okay?
yeah, it's kind of just what I've developed as a method if I don't have something I want to do specifically. And also kind of the subject determines what I'm gonna do a little bit, because if I like a certain thing, I'm not gonna, if I like the fact that there's no outline, then I'm not gonna do the outline. So it's just determined by what I like to see and what I would like to see. Well, I'm just gonna keep drawing and determine sort of points on the head that I can go off from to judge angles so that it's accurate. So right now I have the two eyebrows here that I've judged based off the silhouette of the head. And then those two eyebrows help me determine the nostrils as, points on the head. And those points will help me determine like the angle of the mouth. So sort of here. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points that relate to each other accurately. So that kind of brings you closer to it looking like the person. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I haven't really started doing anything like lights and shadows or anything right now. It's just placements and angles. So I'm focused entirely on where things go, and then I can build from there on something that's accurate, more or less.
How do you decide where to start the chin?
The chin,
How much of a paper would be the head?
the chin, how much from the head?
I mean, how much of the paper is gonna be the face? How did you pick?
It's entirely arbitrary. So I'm like, I put my head here. I think a lot of art is just arbitrary. You make decisions and then you build off of it. Exactly. So that's one arbitrary decision. Decisions that aren't arbitrary, well, they are still arbitrary, but they're based on what I like, are things like how I would draw her eyebrows, which is the first thing that drew me, in my head I was like, okay, this is kind of an anchor point for me in the way I design her face. I can't explain why, I just like her eyebrows, so I'm using that in my design choices. And then kind of downplaying certain aspects of her face to accentuate the eyebrows that I want to see. Does that make sense?
So, I'm sorry, this is, you do this for this model only, or just in general, you go
Well,
with the eyebrows first?
For her specifically.
Okay, so you use the particular, okay, gotcha.
If I saw Rona, I would have done the eyes, because you have very specific eyes, and
Okay,
the way that you're under your eyes is I don't know how you call it,
the full,
the mascara,
the-
the mascara
Oh,
under
yeah.
the eyes.
The eyeliner.
Yeah, that's very, I would say, is what I noticed the most from your face. But everyone has unique features that make them look like themselves. So yeah, it's arbitrary, but it's something I like, so I try to show
Still,
it.
it's helpful to hear you talk about that, so
Yeah.
thank you.
very helpful.
Yeah, so I'm gonna keep going. I'm going lightly, but I'm also trying to plan ahead because in the back of my mind I'm thinking about things that I'll do down the line in this drawing. That is like, I want to keep certain parts not too outlined or anything. Like I'm using these points, but I know that the points will be, it won't hinder the final result. Does that make sense? So I'm trying to think three-dimensionally as much as possible. So I'm thinking of her head kind of like a box. I'm not going to draw it because I think it'll look ugly. I did it last demo. I don't know if you remember, but I was like, I don't want to draw a box because I think it's ugly. But I'm thinking of a box. I'm thinking of those shapes as I draw. Certain points I can relate to my anchor points, so like the corner of her mouth here, I can draw a line and pretty much get the bottom of her ear here. And I can do that with the jaw and how it relates to the neck. So it's almost the same angle, but not quite. So the neck kind of goes down more in this direction, and then we have this element here of her, what is this, décolletage? Okay.
Same word.
Yeah, it's another element that I didn't plan for, but it kind of fits on the page well. And it's something that I like looking at, not in that way, but the way that you decide.
We understand, I offered to get naked, so you can't really offend me.
Okay. Yeah, let's define the outline still a little bit more. Now that we have, okay, now at this point, I think I have a decent sketch of her head. So at this point, what I would do is think about more design choices that I would build from here. There's like, I'm trying to explain. So in charcoal, I think about edges a lot. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but it's like how the form is intersecting another form and how that is translated into drawing. So like the edge of her neck here is very sharp like this, right? Versus the edge, versus the edge of her hair here. It's not quite as defined, right? So we can see the difference here between this choice and this choice, right? So I not willfully, I consciously make those decisions as I draw to separate and distinguish those two types of marks. Does that make sense? And that shows information that I want to convey. So like I like that this hair isn't so sharp, so defined, and so I'm not gonna draw it as, as a outline. So it's all choices I make to basically just show what I like. I don't know. I'll keep trying. If you guys have any questions or you want me to clarify anything, just let me know.
I think what I'm hearing is that there's a strong narrative component to the decisions you're making that I never was aware of.
Yeah, the narrative is, not the narrative, yeah.
Like, I thought that drawing a person, I mean, maybe this is why I didn't get a good grade in paper drawing class. I thought it was just, draw what you see, right? Not a series of editorial decisions.
Oh yeah, I think editorial decisions are necessary for any art.
Right, yeah.
And so just because you're drawing something representational or something that's, I'm drawing you, I know what you look like, but there's no drawing what I see without interpretation.
Right.
So it's just a series of choices that I have to be more aware of than the actual physical
Right,
aspect.
I'm realizing now, oh, I never made any choices in my figurative drawing class.
Choices is what,
Yeah.
it's what makes you,
An artist. Yeah.
but, yeah.
I was just like, wow, dude, this is a lot of naked people. This is, 18 years old, right? Like, oh.
Yeah, I think once you reach a certain point of just doing it a lot mindlessly, you kind of start, at least for me, I'm like, I don't want to not think,
Right.
I want to at least like inject a little something, and that's sort of what I've been working on, is just making those decisions more clear for the viewer, not just for myself, Because I think abstract art kind of has that essence of like, I'm just drawing it for me, I'm injecting things that, but it's not necessarily for the viewer to see or for the viewer to acknowledge, but representational art has more the capacity to let you do that, to let the viewer be understanding of your choices, And
Doesn't shading, that's part of the design too, the lights and darks and the tone.
yeah. So we can get into shading. So the idea of shading to me is just organization.
Yeah.
So I would say shading for me is, I want to organize it in a way that's the most understandable for someone who's looking at it.
Yeah.
So like you're simplifying things that you don't want to see, and you're building things in a kind of like in a cartoony way where it's more understandable than if you drew exactly what you saw. Does that make sense? So like, for example, if I'm thinking of shading for her, then I'm going to think of a general plane on this side of her head, which I'm gonna use all the planes. So I say planes as a box, right? So all the planes that I envision are the same, will get the same shading on them. So like the side of her head on the top, if it's facing this way, right? Yeah, exactly. And then this, I envision it being the same. I have to treat these two as the same for it to be understandable. Does that make sense?
Because that's where the light's coming from.
Yeah. But not just, you could decide to make it more so than what you would see. Because in an ambient room like this, I don't see the exact same values on her cheek, because there's a little bit of light coming from there, a little bit of light coming from there. There's a million light sources, and it's something you have to organize and basically execute in a way that's the most understandable for the person looking at it. So that's kind of what I'm trying to demonstrate here, is the side of her cheek and the side of her head here will have the same shading or the same value. Does everyone know what value is? Okay, so just how dark or how light it is. And then her neck also be contained in that category.
Loic, what kind of paper is that? Just news?
Newsprint.
Yeah.
Newsprint is cheap, but it's if you get the smooth kind, it's as good of a surface as I have ever had to draw on. So I don't see the reason why I would get other surfaces. Yeah. Something else for
Doesn't newsprint yellow over time?
It does, yeah, if you
Yeah.
wanna see some of my drawings, they're getting more yellow, and it's only been,
Oh,
you
I
know,
like
3
the
years.
drawings.
But yeah, it does yellow.
Is there a fixative or something you could use on there?
You can use a fixative, I haven't personally. I'm not too precious with the charcoal drawings, cause I'm like not, I don't see them as the, like a valuable thing, I don't know how to describe it, it's just like presenting ideas that I have. So like I can draw any of these drawings at any point if I have a model, right? So to me, it's just whatever my thought process is, it kind of like keeps track of that, more or less. Yeah, I don't know, fixative, have you used fixative?
Well, for other things, never for newsprint, I just wondered if there was one for charcoal
Theoretically,
newsprint.
there's an acid, anti-acid fixative.
Oh, fixative.
I just read about it this weekend, so.
Oh.
I mean, I just
First
use
I
it
heard
in
of it.
pastels and stuff, so that's why.
Yeah. No, I haven't done fixatives.
Hopefully,
And you're keeping very straight.
spaces that
Good
Am I, yeah, right?
I feel like you've done this before.
No,
I
but
don't put them somewhere.
I had to draw myself in that same class, and it was
Oh, yeah.
like a horror show, so I'm hoping I want to give you every opportunity. This is my redemption.
You're doing a great job, if you want to click, let's stick at 5 minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So did you guys have a question? I know this is kind of early in the drawing. I'm trying to express my thoughts as they come, but I guess it can be a lot for like people listening. So like, if you guys have any comments or.
Can you tell us about the light and why
Yeah,
you put it there?
I don't know why I put it there, that's a good question.
It's like the
Oh,
ring
for
lights
her
used for
face,
Zoom.
maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I never thought of using it for art.
It's just a light for, I'm trying to have the light be more consistent. I can't really get it consistent just based on,
These kind of lights.
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
but this helps you sort of have a more clear idea of.
So it's meant to be a filled light, it's not meant to be an accent light, right?
I wouldn't say I know the difference between those. But
It's not supposed to be a directional light, it's supposed to be general wash.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's
general
what
light.
it's trying to do on Zoom.
If you were going to choose the kind of light in the room, what would you, how would you do it? Would you have a darker room? And then,
it depends on what kind of drawing you wanna do, right?
like if you have a model come, let's say,
Yeah,
to your home, how would you set it?
I really like, ambient light just like this.
Okay.
Because I get to be kind of the decider of what my shapes are and where I sort of, because when you have very harsh light, you become obligated to have those shapes, or otherwise it doesn't make sense. Because, you have very dark shadows and then the light, so you become kind of dependent on, not dependent, but your drawing is already, I don't know how to describe it, it's already decided almost based on the light, versus if you have an ambient light, then I get to make more choices. And that's kind of what I like. I think more classically, it is kind of a dark room and a single light and a bounce light or something.
Yeah.
That's kind of the classical approach, but
That's what Ken Young had, what it was this guy, he had the models posed with clothes on, but
yeah,
it was kind of dark, and then he had focus lights on them, so you got all the shadows.
yeah, I've done a lot of drawings like that at in school, and I guess I don't like it anymore. It's just,
So you do it differently, yeah.
I do it based on what I like, but I like more subtlety and more design decisions that are not necessarily constrained to the lighting scenarios. Does that make sense? So yeah, I have here, what was I talking about? Focus. I guess we're doing Tone?
These are tones,
Okay,
not shadows.
so let's maybe stop time.
Well, I'm right, I mean, I'm
Oh,
right.
no, it's okay.
Get up and shake it out.
I'm like,
Where's the pillow?
I'm just, if I were not bringing food tonight, I might not have come so that I could sleep, so I'm.
I feel like modeling is more hard work than just listening, no?
I don't know, I was having trouble focusing earlier, so that's why I volunteered.
Thank you very much.
Sure, yeah.
So, I guess if you guys had to describe Melissa, how would you describe her? Yeah. If you wanna see. Do you guys have any
What do you mean describe her?
ideas?
Very brave.
First thing that's.
Eyes are kind of deep set, that's why
Yeah,
the eyebrows are so important.
yeah.
And the cheeks too.
That's
Cheeks,
a-
I was just gonna say cheeks, yes.
The cheeks and the,
And the mouth.
okay.
Very
I
difficult.
like, she had like a
Angles
square,
on her
a
face.
Angles,
square, face as opposed to, like mine is more long.
Yeah,
And
so
then some people have round,
exactly.
yeah, so hers is square.
I
So
like her
that's-
nose.
Her nose? Yeah,
Yes.
she has a great nose. That's kind of what you have to think about when you're faced with a subject, is kind of identifying points you like, or just something that describes what you're looking at, kind of verbally or in your head. And that helps you make design decisions going forward.
Is it easier for you to draw someone you know well, or someone you just met like this?
I've tried to draw my wife like 10 times, and I've never gotten anything resembling her at all. So
You know, it's funny that the person closest to you, you have trouble with.
it's maybe just because I've seen so many variations of her, like in, I just
Different
don't
settings.
have,
Yeah.
I don't know, I just can't draw her. It's not necessarily being familiar, I think it's
I'm
just,
glad I asked.
it's just some people are just difficult to draw.
Have you ever done a self-portrait?
I have,
Yeah.
actually, I have one. I did it the other day, actually.
Hi.
That's what I was thinking. I was like,
Were you looking in, were you using a mirror?
yes,
Yeah.
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
I used a tall mirror.
You look very French
I
Yeah,
did.
you do.
I was at an event the other day, and a French family came up to me like, "Are you French?"
Let
I was like,
Let Melissa come and see.
"Oh yeah, do you want to see?"
I'm enjoying.
Wait, hold on, do you mind if I take a picture?
Oh yeah.
Fuller pictures, or we can't make self
Well.
It almost looks like from
Oh,
another
weird, I don't know
time,
if you-
like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's,
Yeah.
it's like an
Well, I
old.
noticed that you do this sort of, I looked at your website,
Yeah.
that you do this sort of,
It's directional. Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
It makes it feel almost like water,
Mm.
is the feeling I have.
It does. I
move-
like
movement.
the movement.
Yeah.
It's also like a natural movement from my arm, specifically, just this angle. It's something I'm comfortable with and I have a lot of control with, so it's just natural movement.
It also feels very modern
Modern.
to me,
Okay.
like Vermeer was not doing that.
No, that's true. I think the point is just to make a choice. Like, if you've noticed that about my work, it's because I made the choice to do it. So, I guess the point is just make a decision and have it be recognizable in your work, so that you you do something you enjoy and just something that's
I
recognizable.
couldn't tell whether you were using like a charcoal eraser and kind of actually smudging over your picture or not.
No, it's all charcoal, it's just this and an eraser. some of the work, like, this one is a lot more like, actually this one here.
Yeah.
It's, it looks like there's eraser marks coming through it, but it's actually no eraser, it's just how I did the strokes, I left spaces. So it's just like deliberate way to make it so that your light becomes whatever's not being drawn. That's already what charcoal is, but I mean, that was especially true for this, for the mark making aspect of it. That makes sense.
Oh, your light is off.
Oh. There you go. Let's keep going. I hope you guys are getting something from this, because I feel like I'm rambling on. So I'm, like you said, she has really deep set eyes, and that's something that I can accentuate with certain decisions. Like right now I'm gonna make those eye sockets the whole value darker, just so that you can really tell that they're darker, they're like coming back, receding. And with chocolate, it's important to build up the values, because if you notice, you put down a mark, and then if you put your hand around it, it kind of dissipates a little bit. So you have to go slow and build up your values, so that, you know, if I go and I do a couple of strokes here to darken this, right? It's not going to stay this dark as I progress in the drawing, especially when I do other marks around it, or just sometimes my hand will smudge it. So you want to really have the charcoal be ingrained in the paper, or else it's gonna change as you progress. So keep in mind, just like, it's not that precious, like you can just go like this, and it's just a way to build up the new layer on top of it. As long as you're organized, it's not gonna be an issue.
You don't worry about oil from your fingers getting on the paper.
It hasn't been an issue, so I don't worry about it, but it helps to have your hand be covered in charcoal, because that also sort of acts as a
buffer.
Yeah, exactly.
So you never use a blender or like cotton ball or Q-tips or?
Not generally. I have in the past, but not really. I haven't had the need to. Like, I don't feel like I need it. Just maybe I should. I don't know. I'll try it next time. So I'm just looking at the values, and I'm trying to keep things in a really kind of like a simple abstractions, so that the shapes read better. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like here, the more simple something is, the easier it is to understand it visually. Like if the same principle with the box, right? You can tell a box is a box. Even, just by, if I didn't have this outline, but I just had, this value is one value, this value is another value, okay? And this value is another value. If I didn't have those outlines, right, you would still understand that it's a box, just based on those values. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So this is
Wow.
the principle behind just keeping things organized, so that it reads as a form even without too much detail or too much definition. Does that make sense? kind of what I'm trying to do here with this portrait, is just having it be organized. So it's beginning to kind of look like a person a little bit. And just gonna make her hair darker. Because her hair is dark. And I'm conscious of the decisions I made earlier regarding the edges. So I would keep this edge kind of glossed, more or less. Right, so it's not so defined. And then some other edges, like her hair coming this way might be like a harder edge, you know. Just making those decisions and then sticking to them will make a difference, because changing your mind is really difficult in charcoal. And other mediums also, like oil paint, you know, if you've tried and you've made a decision and then you've changed your mind, I don't know if you guys have done that, but it's really difficult to have the materials follow up.
I'm going to see the nose and mouth go in.
Okay, so very slow. So it's kind of like placement. But I'm adjusting things as I go along as well. Like, I know I said stick to your guns, but it's like you also want to keep things out of focus until they become more defined, and then you make a decision. That sounds like a contradiction, right? But it's like you made the decision, but the exact placement is not determined. Does that make sense?
You refine it.
I think if you're too preoccupied with getting it quickly to look like a person, then you're gonna kind of go astray, because the things that you think makes it look like a person or realistic isn't really necessarily what makes it look like. You don't have, sometimes, you know, a line for a mouth is more it's more indicative of a mouth than, you know, going and spending an hour trying to get the lips in, you know. So it's not urgent till you want to have all the features in, you know. Because just like this, just the bottom line for the bottom of the lip is already, your mind kind of fills in the gap. You know? I haven't drawn very much on this, but you can already tell sort of where the features are, even though I haven't drawn any features really, right? So it's all subtle indications that kind of build up on each other.
And what about the background? Do you do that last?
It can be part of the design if you want it to be. Like if I really wanted to, and I didn't like a certain aspect of her hair, let's say, I was like, I don't like this about her hair, then I might make the decision to not show that and to incorporate this element into this element. So I kind of think about it as the parts, right? So it's like, if there's a difference between this hair and this background, then they're different elements. If there's no difference, no distinction, then this hair is part of this whole element here. That can be a decision, yeah? So like, and then this whole hair and this becomes a singular thing, and that's kind of, I'm designing it to be that as a decision, right?
What if you make a decision you don't like?
Huh?
There's really no way to correct this.
If you
I
make
mean,
a
you can't
decision
paint
that you don't
over
like,
it or.
You can erase it.
Can we
charcoal, really erase charcoal?
But they were
You're
all-
kind of bound to the materials somewhat,
Yeah.
so if I go really dark, it's not gonna be white. You know,
Mm.
it's never gonna go back to being white.
Right.
Mhm.
Some materials are easier, like
Are there
wash.
different types of charcoal or?
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
there's a blunt that,
Yeah, the stick, there's kind of softer charcoals kind of move around more, but, or like vine charcoal.
yeah.
But once you rub vine charcoal or any type of charcoal into the page, then you're set. You're not gonna get white. Um, Yeah, if you're not sure about making a decision, it's better to put less information. Like, I think if you think about drawing as information, it kind of helps you avoid making mistakes, because any pencil mark is information that you're adding on to the image. So like this, right? This thing that I just did. This is all information, and it can detract from this, it can make this, you know, it's information, so it's how you control information that helps you, kind of guide the viewer into your drawing a little bit. And so decisions are just made to direct information in a way that is appealing. That's kind of like the most broad term for information that I can think of, but it's like something to think about, because it makes you more deliberate with every mark that you make, because then you kind of don't want to be putting too much, because it's going to be detracting from other things. Does that make sense? erase this, just to soften it, because the edge, is a little too hard for what I like. So if I had an eraser, I would make it less of a harsh transition. Rubbing the page really brings the values closer together, so it kind of compresses your values, so that it kind of becomes unified a little bit. Like if I go like this, then all of these are basically one value. Does that make sense? You kind of bring things back to its most simplistic depictions by doing this. Just like this is one, this is one, this is one. So grouping things, organizing things back to what you had originally planned.
How often do you do your art?
Not often.
Too busy with other stuff.
Yeah, I forget to put the time?
No, it's more that the light went off.
Oh, sorry.
I was trying to put it back on, but I
It's
can't.
because it's off of this battery.
Ah.
Oh, it's running out of battery. Gonna go with that light.
Okay.
You taught it specific art
Sorry?
You teach at specific art
I tried to run a workshop with them and it didn't actually run. So they said I would teach, they want me to teach a summer class,
Oh, that'd be good.
but I don't think I can commit to it just because of my schedule.
Right.
But
You teach elsewhere too?
I'm not like a teacher.
Oh, okay.
This is only my second demonstration.
Oh.
I wanted to do it just because I want to see how I enjoy teaching. I don't think I'm not very good at explaining it. So this is like
I've gotten more out of this than my whole semester long.
And she can't even see.
I'm getting ideas, like.
Thank you guys.
Because you are like talking us through some of your thinking, and like my class was just like, oh, I'm a different naked person today, but I never got better as a drawer because I was just
Trying again.
trying again. It was Sisyphean.
I think a lot of teachers kind of preach the practice 1,000 hours and you'll be good, but it really doesn't work that way. You have to
Totally.
think about it, and it's really about being able to, there's an aspect of execution, which is something that you have to practice so that your muscle follows your head. But the most important to know what made me progress the most is really just thinking and kind of organizing my thoughts so that I can express them better. So it's really not just practice and you'll be better. That's really not good. But yeah, physical aspect. And some people, I know it's like, some people just are not able to physically do some of the movements. And so there's a certain barrier where if you can't do the marks, you're never going to be able to, well, you just have to adapt to a different way of organizing. But everyone has their limitations, so telling someone to draw and thinking that you'll be able to be dexterous, it's not necessarily the case. So you have to kind of adapt to yourself.
No,
also.
as you're drawing, you're looking at her and you're kind of sizing up her personality. She's a very gentle lady, calm, nice personality, but you're actually painting that or drawing that in with her, aren't you?
Personality?
Huh?
I don't personally know her, but I can tell she's.
I don't either, but, I mean, she's only been here a few times, but really just her mannerism,
Yeah.
you know, I can tell. And you're trying to portray that in her mouth and her cheeks.
I think you're seeing that
I
because you,
used to draw.
yeah, I mean, what I mean is,
Yeah,
I think
draw.
you're
Projecting.
projecting. I was trying to say that nicely. I think your feelings about her are being projected onto my drawing a little bit. What I'm trying to do is really get as much of her character visually as I can. So if she's, she's playful visually, then I can translate that. But if she's, if she has a dark sense of humor, there's no way I'm gonna portray that.
This very stoic.
Yeah, maybe if it's visual, yeah. I think I'm just making visual choices that I don't know, maybe there is some personality to it. But if there is, I'm not doing it willingly. So I'm trying to get the bottom plane of her cheek, her chin. So like the receding.
Are you seeing shapes, or what are you looking for, like value shapes?
Yeah. So
What are you focusing on?
I've kind of stopped looking at shapes as much, just because if I look at the shape on her, it's gonna distract me from what I want to portray as an idea. Does that make sense? So like if I see there's a shape and I only think of that shape, it goes only to a certain level before I can't bring it higher to where I want it to be. If I just reproduce the shape, I kind of have to exaggerate the shape into something that tells the viewer more. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's the difference between reproducing a picture versus doing the idea of a drawing. That didn't make sense.
No, that's okay.
Your interpretation.
Yeah.
Exactly. But the
Yeah.
interpretation is supposed to be more understandable than what you're actually seeing, because I don't know how to say this, but photos are like things that you see with your eyes is not necessarily you can't idealize it to the point where it's more I'll try to demonstrate it in a way that's
that would be good.
so like if I think of maybe I can find something.
I didn't mean to stop that.
Okay, so I don't know to who I can show this to, but well maybe I'll just put it down. And then so look at this portion on the face. Can you see?
Sure. There you go, stand it down.
If you look at this portion of the face, right?
Can you put it up
Can
on
I
the
put it on
easel?
there? It's kind of too big, I think. But
How about this?
you wanna hold it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
I'm living through it all.
If you look at this portion of the face, right? There's a dark, and then there's a slight light part to it, right? If you were trying to reproduce a picture, you wouldn't see that edge.
I see.
but I've designed it in a way that accentuates that difference, so that it reads even more as the turning of the jaw. Does that make sense? So it's like, there's decisions that you can make that makes something look even more realistic than just reproducing
Right.
something you see. Right?
That's
So
photo.
Does that make sense? Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
So it's about trying to use all those tools to make it more believable than what you actually visually interpret. That makes sense. I think you can take a break if you want. Thank you. You guys have any other question? This is kind of not going very far, but I hope you're getting the ideas based on what I said.
We have about 15 more minutes.
16 minutes.
16?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so one more post? Is that
Yeah,
right?
sure. You're being more respectful of me than I need to be. Necessary.
Is there anything else that I can think of? What do you guys like about drawings? Or if you like drawings at all? Do you guys know or identify? Do you draw? Do you guys? Who likes to draw?
I tried to draw myself, and that was quite a few years back.
You drew yourself?
I look at myself in the mirror. Then I showed it to my mother-in-law, and she said, "Who is he?" You know yourself too well. So I thought, oh, that's true. It wasn't very likely, but I think that looking at yourself in the mirror, I don't know, it changes something.
It distorts, I think it distorts your
Yeah.
face, it's not the same,
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
You think you're prettier than you are.
When you drew yourself, did you stand in front of a mirror?
Was,
Or how did you do that?
sitting.
Well, I had a mirror. Oh, me? Yeah, I had just a mirror on the top of the table, you know.
That's what I had. I had a freestanding mirror.
Yeah, and you were standing too?
I was sitting. I usually draw sitting. This is really hard
I
for me
was
to do
wondering
this
about
thing.
that too, yeah.
Yeah.
So you usually draw sitting, but you have it at, like an easel?
No, I have a horse. So a horse is,
Oh, yeah.
it's like this, and then you put your board like this, and then you sit.
T-type thing, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
like this. That's a horse.
Yeah.
So how far away? It's like arm
It's,
distance away, like you stand?
no, so it's actually really close.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I'll show you if I can use the chairs. So this would be a horse here, like this. And then I would draw the
This
cross.
Oh, yeah.
that looks very
So
good.
it's down even
It's down,
Lower.
it's at an angle where it doesn't have any distortion. Because easels are like this,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and that has a lot of distortion.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's
so
interesting.
Yeah,
if
I've
you're
noticed.
standing in front of your drawing,
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
But I have a tripod easel, and I can put it
yeah,
at
if you can
different angles.
angle
Yeah,
it,
yeah, yeah.
and then your line of sight is
Yeah,
better,
yeah.
for sure.
I don't do a lot of drawing, however, but.
Yeah, it has some distortion, but it's negligible. The reason I said is just how comfortable I am with the arm movements.
And your model is usually what, at the same level as you?
I like my models to be higher, just because I like those angles better for my drawings.
So now she's lower, so that changes.
So you're looking down and
Yeah.
standing
Yeah.
up, yeah, it's different.
It's a little bit different.
Uh-huh.
Generally, I don't talk outside.
Yeah, that's hard. I appreciate that you're telling us what you're thinking. Because
I thought that was the
that's
point
what
of
I
the
always
book.
want a teacher to do, but they don't.
I think some people are really protective, or like, not protective, but like they don't want to tell people their secrets or whatever.
That's how it feels.
I don't really understand, because to me it's like, the point of why I'm doing it is to tell people my thoughts. So this is kind of like a natural way to, you
I
know,
appreciate it.
if I could write a book about drawing, then I would rather do that than draw, but I can't write a book, because I don't think I would be able to. But
Do you also use this charcoal for underpainting?
no, I've never underpainted with charcoal, but I think you can, there's no issue with that. The thing is if I build values on charcoal, it's not gonna show up if I paint over it, so there's no point to do that. But if you wanna paint translucently, maybe, that could work, cause then your values are underneath. I've never really experimented with that, but I think that's an option. Well, let's keep going. You got 10 minutes, 15 minutes?
Yeah, 10.
So, yeah, what do I wanna do? Just gonna do a few adjustments. Has anyone ever heard that you're not supposed to smudge charcoal?
No, I never.
No.
Because I've heard that, I'm not sure why.
Really?
I was like, that,
Why wouldn't you?
Well, maybe it's,
I remember in, when I was taking drawing class in, actually at LA City College, we had those, like a felt thing that we would use to, yeah, what is that called? I know the name of it.
Stomp?
Yeah, stomp, yeah, I guess that would. Yeah,
oh,
stomp.
yeah.
I think I still have it.
I do
Yeah.
get paper still there, and they're good.
Do you ever use an eraser?
Yeah, I
I
think
do.
the
I needed
thing
a
is
receipt.
better.
I didn't bring it today. I thought it was in my pencil case, but it wasn't.
And I took the class years ago, we had erasers.
Well, charcoal has dust like pastel, so maybe the dust and the pastel dust was the bender.
Yeah, especially not the charcoal pencil, but the regular charcoal, I think is.
Yeah,
maybe that is not dust.
yeah.
So what's your sort of formal training and what do you like about portraiture?
Good question. I don't really have formal training.
Okay.
I have, I studied in an atelier, which is kind of like, not very structured. It's just, there's a model, every class, you just draw one. So it's like kind of, what's nice is you kind of come up with your own conclusions a little bit, and you're just drawing every day, so that helps. What do I like about drawing?
Yeah. What do you like about figure drawing?
Figure drawing. Figure drawing. What do I like?
Why this?
He's good at it.
I like doing things I'm good at.
Yeah. Sure.
Right,
What do I like? I like pictures in general, like images. So I think portraits is just an extension, like a medium that I can do a picture, you know, draw or something. It's either that or what else? I don't know what else you could draw. I guess landscapes.
I guess I would never draw a person, I'd draw a plant.
Why?
I like plants a lot.
The plant won't
The plant won't move or talk back.
I think I'm kind of I like collecting stuff, but stuff that are like each other, kind of like that's the point of collection. Is like
It's a category.
yeah, so portraits is kind of like a collection, I guess, of like things. I guess I like that.
That works for me. Okay.
Yeah, I guess if you like plants, then that's sort of a collection. I don't know.
So when you were going to school, was it mainly focusing on portraiture and figures as opposed to, totally, was it totally,
Yeah.
that?
It
It wasn't
was-
like landscape?
There was a few landscape
Was.
classes, but I was not taking.
Did you say you were doing oil paints now?
I am, yeah, a little bit.
Are you doing faces or other
I do
things?
portraits sometimes, yeah.
So those are oil paint?
Some of them, yeah, that's all. This, I think it's just like canvas painting. You guys wanna-
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah, those are nice. I like the light.
Yeah, there's a lot of contrast, especially in this one.
Thank you. So there's the same principles with oils as charcoal, just the idea of the value.
Not what I think of as oil paint. Because it's just,
He makes it look like charcoal.
yeah. You make your oil paint look like charcoal.
I think this was like kind of an earlier,
Yeah.
when I was
So you
kind
do
of
the
transitioning
same
into
movement.
oil, where I was kind of didn't really know how to treat oils. And I still don't really know how to treat oils because it's really difficult, but I've sort of understood the limitations and more about the material, but it's, I think a lot of oil paint is really chemistry, not chemistry, but like how they I thought you were handing it to me. Like how the oil
Oh, the one with the light.
interacts with itself. I struggle with that a lot
Oh, it's
when
on
I
the thing.
started
Oh.
because
Yeah,
the oil paint is for me to have a consistent value with it, kind of like charcoal. I would have to either go very thin or very thick, because as soon as you start mixing it and blending it, it doesn't react the way you would assume it does.
You've seen it, okay.
I don't know if you're familiar with oil. Do you paint with oil?
Yeah, I started with oils. One of the first classes I took, like, post-college.
It's weird. It's a little weird.
Yeah, no, I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I work with acrylics a lot now.
Acrylics?
Yeah, because it's more like oils and
I haven't done acrylics myself.
yeah.
So I have a question, it almost looks like, to me, like oil pastel.
That's oil, yeah, it's just thinned out with turpentine.
Oh, so it's oil pastel? No.
It's oil.
It's oil, they send it out, okay,
Exactly.
interesting. Ah, really good.
Thank you. Thank you for sending some stuff. I think we're done there.
Well, you can finish that later, email it to Sal and then.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What would he, who would he email it to when he's done? Would he send it to you when he's done? You're not gonna finish it.
Finish what?
Are you gonna ever finish that, do you think?
Oh, I don't think so, but
Okay. Never mind.
if I can take a picture, I might.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
If you want.
Oh, sure, whatever.
Yeah, here, let me get a,
Copy of it.
You can have it if you want.
Oh, yeah, I'd like, it would be.
hold on, not yet, please.
So, yeah, so.
Stand up there next to me. Everybody, here we go. Like that, just like
Yeah.
that.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just take that.
I can either take it home or I can take a picture of it. Either.
I'll just take it. Actually, are you able to? It might be difficult.
Yeah, it's easy. I mean, I
Nothing.
It's my passenger.
I think it's like that. I remember one time in
Percentage of done on that picture.
without looking at one or anything,
That's
it just
usually
come our
all
imagination.
but
But you have to change
on the
the,
regular, if I was sitting in a
change
drawing.
every inch. You had to make some kind of change, but you had to use